Hello. It's not a time I'd ideally be making a video, though. I guess I'm trying to be flexible and trying to really make sure I'm making these videos to their best effect, given how things are for me at present. My mental health is, I'll just give you a quick rundown at the beginning. I've got a story coming up. It's a bit of a weird one, probably a wild one, but it might be more interesting for those of you who like action movies. My mental health, it's ripping me to bits on every level. It's really challenging me through hiding my memory. Like, I know if I had my full memory right now, I wouldn't have many problems, I don't think, or at least my problems would be a lot more real. But my mental health keeps playing games with me and just making me forget stuff. We all forget stuff, but you know, if you set the intention to do something, and then your mental health just challenges you relentlessly for the next 24 hours. By the time it stops and you sit down and you might have a sleep, and then you wake up and you know your life has moved on. And if you suffer in the right way in that 24-hour period, your mental health might let you remember what the intention was you set before. But the intention is always positive, and to get myself out of this struggle and to stop making noise that I know, which I inevitably annoy other people with. So anyway, I just go into the story, I think. Just to note, I am still multitasking somehow. This is part of the therapy device that I recently received, and I'm impressed with it, and going to be using it in conjunction with this video making. So the story is the story of Jesus, the universal multicultural referee. Now, I don't believe this story, but I believe there are elements to it that are true. And what it is, it's like I'm just using it to. Imagine this video. You've all seen the Channel 4 adverts, right? Where the number 4 is all like floating in the air, and the person's walking or cycling down the road, and as they're getting closer, these things that are floating in the air, all of a sudden, and it's very all of a sudden, it will form like the shape of the number 4, and then before you know it, it disappears, and all these segments are separated again. And that's kind of what my mental health is like, and that's what is kind of happening each time with these stories. It's like, as I hold actively in mind, or mostly actively in mind, the different elements I play with. So I have different bits of information, and I'll play with them to try and find the truth in them, try and find the lie in them, and try and see how they interlink with everything else I know. And essentially that's what's happened with this story. They've all come together and formed the shape that I can see, and I can it's clearly defined, so to speak, or clearly defined enough to make a video of. But chances are in a few seconds they'll stop forming that shape once I get a bit more information, and more of the truth will be formed. But I don't hesitate to make to piece them together into a conducive, I'm pretty sure you know what word I'm trying to think of, a conducive story plot, because ultimately each of these story plots most of them I'll remember. So it'll be like as time goes on and the information comes in and the stories change and the stories ultimately become clearer and clearer, I do have these prior stories to reference back to. So in this story you're going to hear a lot of elements of war. Now, I don't believe reality and humanity is bound together by elements of war, but just acknowledging that it's real, it's happening now, so there's some element of truth to war, and I don't hide away from exploring that possibility. So anyway, this is the story. The story of Jesus, the universal multicultural referee. So, we have many different, we have many different cultures, but there are about 5 to 7 main races upon the planet. So we have white people, we have black people, we have the red tribe. I've never heard it referenced as red people, hence I'm reluctant to state that, so I'm going to call it the red tribe. Again, yellow tribe. And the brown tribe. But the brown tribe is separated. The brown tribe is the Aboriginal man, and the brown tribe is also the other part of Asia. So we have Pakistan, Arabs, Indians, that area of the world, and that would be the second brown tribe. But they're both brown skinned, and that's how I reference them. So I'm not sure what the beef was when it occurred, but I'm sure you can use your own imaginations to fill that gap in. But somewhere along the lines, we weren't getting on as people. We weren't getting on this planet. And I don't know who was right or wrong, who was strong, who was weak, blah, blah, blah. But I believe what happened is I don't know if it was Jesus, but it kind of links in that around that time with some other bits of information I have. Jesus did something, he initiated something, so I feel Jesus in there. But it could have been Muhammad, it could have been Lao Tzu, it could have been one of the warring nations that took over the world, so it could have been anybody. But I would most likely believe it was Jesus. So Jesus was born, and there was beef in the world. And what Jesus decided to do, because the world was still spiritual then, the spirituality was still prevalent. But with spirituality and reality and physicality and humanity, war is still prevalent too. I don't actually understand the word prevalence, so I'm going to say it, I'm going to change it. War was still real. And ultimately, Jesus just wanted to love, and he wanted to stop war. Or ultimately, if he understood war, it was to end it in the most amicable, quick way possible. So he essentially travelled the world, travelled to the different parties, races, and said, you know, look, this is the situation. We're all killing ourselves. We're all fighting. We're all murdering each other. Let's do it a different way. And you know, even in the most barbaric of man, once upon a time he must have experienced something that was resembled love. You know, so each human has the capability of murder and love. So if you present the situation clearly enough to someone, and obviously they've got their own mind, and you explain, you know, what are we doing? If we carry on like this, we're just going to blow each other up, or we're going to kill unnecessary people. And he had an idea. We could do it a different way. And ultimately, because it's spiritual, what follows makes sense. Because if you're at war, what I'm about to say wouldn't make sense to anybody. And what I'm about to say is that essentially we all made ourselves weak to our strengths. And I think that's possibly what it was. It was like, right, okay, on whatever level they were fighting, the way they fought wasn't what it was at. You know, it's who they were inside, who they were as spiritual beings. That was the most important thing. So he went to India, and India, the subcontinent, as I understand it, for humanity, for planet Earth, India is, I want to get the words right, I don't want to offend anybody, and that's not my intention, but they're like a warrior continent. Their nature is that of the warrior. I think that's correct. I think that's mostly correct. And he went there and he said to them, look, I want you to make yourself weak. And what they did that. Now they have the Kama Sutra, they have a full understanding of the human anatomy, they have a far better comprehension of it than I could ever imagine, the ancient Vedas. And essentially, I made a video of it before, explaining how the retention of, we're going to get into quite, I've got my heater on, hence I'm looking as I look, sweating slightly. But essentially he went to India and he said to them, look, I want you to make yourself weak where you're the strongest. And Indians are a warrior subcontinent, so not just India, but that area of the world. I want you to make yourself weak to where you're strong. Now, if you imagine the Kama Sutra, they have a full comprehension of sexuality and sexual energies and all of that within the human body, and what makes a human strong and what makes someone weak. And essentially, for that area of the world, they decided to make themselves weak by the commencement of hiding the knowledge of how to gain the strength from their sexuality that essentially allows them to be warriors. I believe the Black Tribe, he went to Africa, wherever it was, Egypt, South Africa, who knows, but he went to Africa and he negotiated with the Black Tribe. Now the Black Tribe, in my understanding, by the Aboriginal man, their physical bodies, what gives them the ultimate strength, you know. It's like, in a loose bit of comprehension, is the body of a black man or black woman is far stronger, far more able to deal with harshness than, well, definitely that of a white man, and possibly that of a red man too, the Red Tribe. So what Africa agreed, what the Black Tribe agreed, was that they would go out without luxuries on the outside, because ultimately, to keep the body strong, that doesn't make sense. But anyway, in this story, the Black Tribe decided to go without external possessions. I mean, Africa is the most poorest continent there is, isn't it? My understanding is mass poverty, mass starvation. This is my preconceived notion, without having a thought, just by being totally honest about the information I've received as a human being from what Africa must be like to live in total ignorance. And that is poverty, that is widespread AIDS, that is a history of corruption and essentially raping and pillaging by those who should know better, like the White Tribe. And rewind back like 50 years, 100 years before the Black Tribe became like everybody else, like trying to be European. You know, you go to the major African cities, I'm sure it's not too different from Europe now. You know, it's the same thing. Europe leads the way and the rest of the world copies. But rewind back, and I don't think it would have looked like that. I don't think it would have had that same society. And I believe it would have been a lot poorer compared to that of Europe and the like. I mean, Europe had lush land. You got mass amounts of desert in Africa, and of course you have lush land in Africa too. But for some reason, it seems that the troubles of the world, famine, disease, AIDS, war, corruption, invasion by other people, it seems to have affected Africa the most. And that could have been what Africa agreed in terms of their making themselves weak. So it could even be, and this is me putting links together as we speak on, as I speak, and that is that possibly Africa, the Black Tribe, gained their strength from the outside. Maybe it was a totally different world, and taking into account ancient Egypt, it probably was more of the case. The Black Tribe probably gained strength from having possessions, having control of the outside world. Now, come back to Europe, the white man, and this is taken into account teachings from my uncle, their strength is their mind. That's where their nature is. So if we look at, say all the different tribes were fighting each other, yeah? What I just said about Africa, to see that happen on the outside, right? so if Africans said, right, I'm going to make myself weak by having little possessions on the outside, but how can I make myself strong as a race? And that would be to go the totally opposite way and keep it to mind, knowing that the more they get beaten, essentially, by life, by being essentially innocent, because they you're born into that life, and I say that life like it's a common thing, like widespread, and all of Africa's the same, but we rewind back 50 years, 100 years, and I can't, in my own foresight, I can't perceive it that it would be too much different. Like the range of lifestyle, I couldn't imagine it would be different. You would have a small section of upper class, and that would be it. I guess I need to do more research, but it's just a quick story here. And ultimately, in the Black Tribe's wisdom, they realized that unity between themselves would be what gave them strength. And if ultimately they don't have anything on the outside anyway, because that was the very thing they forfeited, then their strength would come in unity with each other. So essentially, the more they get beaten as a race, the more unified they'll become. You know, I'm not saying they've done anything to themselves, but it's just having that understanding as that could have been what's happened. The Europeans, the white tribe, my uncle told me Europe is essentially the mind of the world. White man obviously has found home in Europe, and therefore it was to divide each other. How many different countries are there in Europe? You know, you guys speak to a European. This European's arguing about the European next door to him. The other Europeans saying no more illegal immigrants coming from next door. You got this European at war with another European. You got other Europeans that are Russian. You got, but fragmented into different countries. We have two world wars essentially between Europe. I mean, the rest of the world was involved, but it was Europe, you know. Germany decided to go for a little walk to the countries next door. It went to Poland, UK got involved, France got involved, Italy got involved. And through the power and the Europeans had to the rest of the world, they got the rest of the world involved too. But I believe that was European man's, white man's forfeit, that he wouldn't know or wouldn't be able to have unity with each other. Essentially, again, the mind is divided between left hemisphere and right hemisphere. And that was his forfeit. The yellow tribe, they're forfeit, and I could be wrong, but I believe that as a race, what contributes to their skin color is either something in their diet or the way they live affecting their kidneys, and that's helped over time create a yellow pigment in their skin. And taking into account the energy work and understanding I have about the little understanding I have about energy work, the kidneys are very important. And when you see movement and you see how much of you understand that Taoism is quite common, if not widespread in China, as a practice and an understanding. It could be that the yellow tribe forfeited their bodies by somehow weakening their kidneys. It could be again through their diet. It could be the soya. This is just another thing that's been going on in my head lately, and I'm just making links. So it could be the soya in their diet that affects their kidneys. I don't even know if soya affects kidneys. So as I said, it's just something that's been going in my head, and this is what I do. This is how I just fill in the blanks. The red tribe, get this, they're actually a tribe of love. Yeah, that's their strength. But the red man, the red tribe, they're known for fighting amongst themselves too. They're proud, you know. They won't take a beating, and I just can't believe a tribe that is essentially heart-based, love-based, even with invaders that are coming in. I can't believe that's the first port of call of action to respond with war. My belief is that it was almost a conscious effort through their knowing of love to essentially not be love. And that was their forfeit. I guess for myself it's you got South America too, and really the red tribe would have to include the South Americans. And I don't know, I maybe what was left, I don't know, South America, I'm not sure. It doesn't make sense that they forgot love, or if they have, they're suffering in a different way to North America, where they took an active approach to violence essentially. And if you're love, why would you kill animals to eat? You'd adopt a more vegetarian diet. Whereas the South Americans, it could even be a case of, whoa, you've taken love away from us, that's it, we're done with. And it kind of would explain why a suspected 40 million population of ancient Maya has slowly diminished. You know, if you've lost love and you're not going to take an active approach, that's it, you just slowly die out. Now Aboriginal man, his nature from now is that of a traveller. They travel the land, they don't have a fixed abodes, and they burn the land, they work by burning the land. So it could be that Aboriginal man possibly had the most lush land there was. Most lush home. Not land, but home. Somehow they, who knows, they probably had like golden caves, you know, and somehow that's been taken from them, and that's what they forfeited, and that's why they travel. And yeah, so this was Jesus's idea, to come in and remove the very thing that made everyone strongest. For what point? For what point? Well, maybe there was war, and like I said, it's like that film Troy, the film Troy, rather than the story, and essentially, is it Alexander the Great? Sorry, Alexander the Great, the film Alexander the Great. He pulls up with his army, and essentially, instead of the whole army fighting, Alexander the Great takes his best warrior and pits him against the best warrior of this other tribe. So instead of there being a war, both parties, both sides, are aware to save life. You know, life is the most important thing. But ultimately, war exists, and I'm not going to let you take my land. So we'll do it this way. Yeah, I trust in my warrior. I trust. Can't. And they agree. And two guys fight, and one wins. I mean, next time, hopefully they'll get it down to flipping a coin. No one dies, but who knows? And I think it's a bit like that. It's a bit like, let go of what you think makes you strong, and then let your consciousness come through. And if your consciousness can override the cultures of others, then you win. But if what comes through without your strength is something else, then who are you really? Because who you think you are is only going to give you more pain in the long run. I don't know. This is just a very loose story, but I'm actually quite reluctant to share a more accurate story of what I believe with a lot of that information, because I haven't reflected on it myself, and I haven't pieced it together myself. And if I do, I wish to make it a separate story, you know, a more conducive story, and I believe that's coming. So yeah, thank you for listening. Thank you for pardoning the mass amount of water pouring out of my forehead. Yes, and just to say, I'm very impressed with this therapy device. Both technologies, as I mentioned in a previous video, work well with each other. They complement each other, and the power reached in these units is far stronger than the mobile units and the individual units I've had separately. So hopefully I can piece myself together again.